trying to provide resources to parents that are maybe dealing with this situation. So as this presentation goes on, hopefully this will help answer some of your questions and concerns. I'm going to go through and review a lot of tips and strategies involving such things as schedules and routines, work completion, participation in different activities at home from the school or things you're trying to do on your own. We're going to talk about reinforcement and motivation, because that is something that I know I'm very passionate about teaching others how to use, because that's what gets us through our day. Self-care for your child, for you, for your whole family, how to obtain, resources and reach out, and then plenty of reassurance as we go through. So first and foremost, I want to start out with this statement, and maybe tell yourself this too. It's okay. I found this big long post online, and I wanted to pull out some of these. It's okay to not know how to homeschool your child. Not many of us, I'm sure, most of us are not teachers. So to not know how to do that, that's okay. That's not your profession. Even those of us that are teachers and are school professionals, doing this thing from home right now is not something that we're used to. We're having to adjust, we're trying to learn things even as we go, even creating all of this process, we're learning. It's okay to not know how to work from home, maybe many of us that aren't used to that environment, we're having to come up with our, they say new normal. What is your schedule like? Where is your workspace? Are you working at the kitchen table? Do you have an office? What are those things you're doing? What is your schedule? How have you made your to-do list? It's okay to not feel okay. If you need to cry, cry. If you're mad, if you're frustrated, a lot of us are feeling those things. It's not normal for any of us to be going through this. And as you've heard probably plenty of times, we are all in this together. Chances are there's somebody that is doing this, feeling this, experiencing this, questioning this, just the same way you are. So as we go through this presentation, a lot of these things are concepts, questions, and concerns that, parents and other professionals have brought to me. I know Lisa has had a lot of these concerns, brought to her and through the Autism Society as well. So know that you're not in this on your own, and hopefully we can help you in this process. So, what's going on right now? Clearly our plans have been altered. We had these plans to have some work from this time to this time. And now all of that, literally, as you can see in the picture, world is upside down. Our schedules have changed, and they're probably constantly changing. From day to day, we probably thought it was going to be this way, and now we're on plan B or C or D or keep going. Probably most of the family or the whole family is at home so much more. Maybe you're used to just one or two people for most of the day, and now everybody's there. Everyone's in the same room most of the day. What are we doing? So let's find out what we can do. What do we do now? We all scratch our heads. Let's figure it out and let's answer these questions. First thing, identify it. Identify the issue, the concern, the question, recognize that and validate it. Literally tell yourself, it's okay to feel blank. As I already said, but I'll say it again, practice it right now, even while you're sitting at home watching this. It's okay to feel confused. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to be mad. And let that emotion be expressed. Practice this talk with everyone in your family. Many of us at the schools, we're always working on identifying emotions with our students. So make that practice known at home. Communicate that with your child however you can, however they can. If it's verbally, do that. If it's communication device or some sort of icons or something like that, use that. If they need to draw, that's a way to communicate what's going on. Use toys, manipulatives. Use role play or something like that. Get that out, express that, and reassure that it's all okay to feel that way. It's not wrong. We're not denying it. And tell yourself, it's okay to do this task this way. It's okay to make modifications. Everything doesn't have to go perfectly to a T, the way we had it written down on our pretty colorful planner. Okay, it's just not going to happen that way. So we have to know that it's okay for that. And we need to know that things, again, are going to change frequently. And again, that's okay. It's not wrong. It's not a failure. We're going to frequently change those things. So, how do we get started? Sometimes we have to go back to those basics. You can see some of those examples I have there in the pictures. You might have to pull out, as some of those old tricks. Maybe it's something you haven't used in a long time. You're like, we're over that, we're beyond that. Guess what? Maybe if you, go back in those old tricks, it's because it worked in the past. So it's in your repertoire, it's in your child's repertoire. It's not something that's unfamiliar. So you can use that. You know that it's worked, and maybe you cycle through those things. And what that does is that keeps things different. So you're not using the same mode all the time. So maybe you do rotate back and forth, or you pull out those old things that you haven't used in years that are still in your container, that could be things like sticker charts, rewards, reinforcers, bringing that in again, different types of schedules or way you've done schedules at home, or gotten things from school even, visual supports, social narratives, calming activities. And I'm going to talk about some of these things more specifically as we go. So what is your reassurance here? Well, again, this whole thing that we're going through and what we're experiencing and what we're trying to accomplish, it isn't a setback. Don't feel like you're set back, you're failing, you can't do this. This whole experience has obviously turned all of our worlds upside down. We just have to break things down, do it the way we can with what we can. How might we do this? We might, work in smaller chunks of time, or smaller amounts of work, smaller frequencies of work, a couple questions on a worksheet or something like that. We might do things in shorter durations, we might have more frequent reinforcement or breaks. I know even for myself right now, as I'm working and I'm doing video conferences and I'm doing these different things, I find that every so many minutes, I try to make sure I at least get up and do some sort of stretch, or I walk around my living room a couple laps, or, watch some silly video on my phone or text somebody or something, and actually get up from that area just to reset my body, reset my brain even, so that I can keep going and just kind of be re-energized for what's next. We have to let some things go too, which I'm going to talk about later, picking your battles. What do you choose? What do you modify? And know that things are going to be like a roller coaster. I mean, they are daily. That roller coaster might be even more so right now. We have our good days, we have our bad days. And I tell many of my parents, many of my professionals that I work with, this is actually a quote from a parent that I worked with, that said, smaller, slow progress is still progress. So know to celebrate those little things, run with that, note that, write those things down, and that will help you get up that uphill as things do start to go again. Next thing, patience, flexibility. I think this icon here is perfect, actually. What do we pick and choose? What battles are we going to fight? And you may even have to change that in the moment. Maybe you had something set one way and now you have to do it something different. Determine how and what you're going to modify and when. What materials are you going to use? Are you going to use markers, crayons? Are you going to use paper? Are you going to use items from outside? How are you going to teach and use these concepts for activities, whether they're for school, whether they're for leisure, teaching chores, whatever that might be? The location, what room are we working in? Where are we sitting? If you got to go outside and do some work on the swing set while you're swinging back and forth, or while you're going for a walk in the wagon or whatever, use that time. Why not? Answer the question, I'll push you again on the swing. you know, kind of trade off, do that. Determine, you know, what means we're done. You know, we don't want to push too far, but we want to get things accomplished. Break things up again, come back later. I know I have made my to-do list, you know, for my days, and if I don't get something done, I circle it and then we try it again tomorrow. We just move on to the next thing. So that's my modification. Important piece here, and I know we do this in the schools a lot too, give your child more choice, more control. Give them the authority, the ownership, the involvement in this process. Have them choose the order of the activities. And you don't even necessarily have to say, okay, what are all the things we're doing today? But hey, it's time to do our work. What do you want to do right now? Awesome. Choose it, go. You know, what do you want to do next? Just break it down a task at a time. Maybe it's how many activities to do each day, each week. Like, hey, we're going to try to do math 3 times this week. Hey, we're going to go outside 2 to 3 times this week. What days do you want to do those things on? And let them change their mind. That's okay too. Let them choose where they want to work, what they want to work with. Maybe offer some options, maybe not so broad, but say, hey, do you want to do this, this, or this? And allow your child to choose that option. Some rules, some expectations. You know, at school, we have rules. We have our expectations. We have our expected behaviors, or whatever you want to call that. And they're posted generally, and we're constantly teaching those. So keep that consistency at home. Maybe you're going to post some rules somehow in your house. That might be pictures, it might be icons, it might be actual pictures of your child, your family members, maybe even familiar characters like from a TV show. You can use things on Boardmaker. I know Boardmaker has been running some, you know, some free programming right now, you know, clip art, Google, whatever. Maybe they're written. You know, and I would suggest too, maybe you have them in a central location, wherever that work or school time area is, but also with some common behaviors and some of those rules and expectations, maybe post them in a couple spots throughout the house that are commonly used. That way they're a frequent reminder. You know that a lot of schools do that as well. Constantly model those things, you know, model what it looks like to sit and do work at the table, model what it looks like to walk appropriately up and down the steps, to do our chores, to do these things. And it's actually kind of a fun thing to praise all the family members for doing those things appropriately, and for following those rules. Maybe, you know, the more you praise that person, maybe the next person will catch on to that appropriate behavior. And praise yourself. Recognize that we're all doing something good. That will increase that display of those expected behaviors for sure. So kind of transitioning right to how do we keep those things going? Reinforcement, motivation. We want to catch them being good as much as possible. I stress this with my school staff all the time. The more we positively reinforce, the more that expected behavior is going to be displayed. That's the whole point and definition of positive reinforcement. So how are you going to do that? It could be so simple as frequent descriptive social praise. And I'm saying, you know, not just good job, good job, good job, but oh, thank you so much for helping me clean up after we finished this activity. I love how nicely you went upstairs and got this and brought it back to me. Thank you for using your words so nicely. You're doing such a great job sitting in your chair right now. Keep it descriptive, keep it new, keep it different. There might be things like token systems, and you can, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go crazy. It can just be things like magnets or X's on a piece of paper or a dry erase board or, you know, something like that. You can Google, again, there's plenty of things that are pre-made that are out there. Maybe you're in communication with your child's teacher and they have the commonly used thing that was in the classroom, so they can send that to you, and that increases that consistency at home as well. Think about those items: toys, games, privileges, snacks, activities, you know, getting to FaceTime a relative or something for getting work done. Come up with some creative things, come up with a list, have it out so the child can choose from those things. You know, constantly ask them, hey, what might you want to earn today if we get this done? There's so many ways to do this. I think this could totally be a webinar on its own. So maybe we'll have to do that at some point. Have your toolbox, okay? So you've, kind of set up what we're gonna expect, how we're gonna reward, how we're gonna modify things. What is in our toolbox? There's not just one tool in a toolbox. We have plenty of tools in a toolbox. So that's keeping our options open. What are we gonna use at any given moment? If plan A doesn't work, what's plan B? How are we going to get through our day, get through our time? We have to adjust. This is a flowing thing constantly. Maybe it's something like creating a list of can do and must do. Maybe, hey, these are the things we have to get done today. These are the things that if you get done, that'd be great, extra bonus, but you don't have to do them, okay? So kind of make those as options and involve the child in that planning as well. Have 2 to 3 options at a time. Don't just make it, we're going to do this and this is it. Maybe even rotate back to option A. I know I've worked with some school staff on, hey, we have math and we have reading and we have, social studies out. And the child picked math right now, but they decided midway through they want to switch to reading. Okay, that's great. We can do that. Be flexible, flow back and forth. As long as we get it done, we get it done. And then just mix in some easy and successful or more of those maintenance type activities that have already been mastered. This is what we call building momentum. If you're finding you're hitting a roadblock or you're having a hard time getting them to start working, maybe start with something so easy that that they've mastered, and praise them for that, get them excited for working again, and then bring back that activity that you're really trying to accomplish and kind of intersperse that if you need to. Let's talk about screen time. That's another thing. I know that's a big concern, and not just for our kids, for all of us. I know that, goodness, my screen time has increased majorly because, you're trying to keep up to date on the news, or this is the main way you want to be entertained right now. So how can we all do this? And again, this is a good tip that, I'm teaching myself even as I'm giving this presentation. Timing, trade-offs. Maybe it's a first then, hey, first we're doing this, then we get 5 minutes of screen time. Maybe we make a schedule where it's literally built in screen time. And I'm talking more of that screen time for leisure and for reinforcements. Obviously, if you're having to do some sort of virtual classroom thing, that's different, but you have to, kind of differentiate that, maybe make specific icons or write that out specifically on the schedule. Maybe that's with yes, no, you put some sort of icon on the computer, on the iPad, or a note that says first math, then play, something like that. When you're actually engaging in the screen time, the child's engaging in the screen time, set a timer or set some way that maybe it goes off after a certain time. I'm not really sure how to do that, but maybe a timer is just set that says, okay, when the timer goes off, we're going to do something else and we're going to put this down. Maybe modify some of those activities that you're doing for learning and for leisure. Like maybe we can do a subject or an activity outside instead of sitting at the computer. Maybe there's another way to teach this or to participate in this. Or hey, if you're really interested in this show or this game or this, virtual tour, why don't we try to do this another way in our own house away from the screen? Maybe we use hands-on manipulatives or something like that. And then set some limits with the technology, even as a reinforcement option. Many of you may be familiar with choice boards, where you have either things written out or icons all kind of on one big template or one big sheet together. Cross things off as they're chosen. So once that thing's crossed off, guess what? We got to pick something else until everything is chosen, and then we can reset again. That's kind of a good way to increase your repertoire of things that are chosen and activities that you're experiencing. And that's a way too to kind of decrease that whole obsession or perseveration over one thing and one activity over and over and over again. Breaks, another great thing. And again, this one is great for not just your child, but for all of us. Keep it simple. It doesn't have to be a big 15, 20-minute break or anything like that. It can just be something like, hey, let's walk up the stairs and back. Let's go in the kitchen and get some water. Let's You know, go grab this from this room, or let's just, you know, walk outside and, you know, draw something on the driveway with chalk for 2 seconds. You know, it can be very, very simple. Maybe quick brain breaks. I know schools do things called brain breaks where everybody just gets up and we do some jumping jacks together, or we do deep breathing. Or we do some silly, you know, everybody spin around and then touch your nose, you know, some silly quick game or something like that. A dance break, you know, play a song, stand up and literally dance. Again, things we can all do, things I'm doing on my own, you know, and it helps me get through my day also. You may have to literally schedule them in, like write them in. And this is things with scheduling. It's not just for the kids. Even in school, I say this with my staff. This is for us too. It's a good reminder for us, like, oh yeah, we're going to take a break right now. Oh yeah, I need to do that. And generally when we write things down, that makes us have to stick to them. Or maybe we set an alarm on our phone that will go off at that time. And that's a reminder, oh yeah, it's time for a silly break. It's time for us to play a game for a few minutes or something. And some days you may need more of those breaks, and that's okay. Again, we do that in the school all the time. Some days we got to take those breaks more frequently. Some days we have to change our routine all the time. Our lesson plan goes out the window and we have to change that. That's okay, again. And remember too, those breaks also involve self-care. Self-care is important and necessary for everyone, especially for us as we're navigating how we're working at home. And, you know, we got to take care of ourselves before we can help to take care of anybody else. So, you know, again, think about those things, a phone call, a FaceTime, nice long bath if you can do it. You know, what's your comfort food? Watch your TV show, you know, set up that Google or that Zoom or that, you know, virtual something with some friends. Schedule those in, do those for you, do those for your child, find a way to be able to take those breaks and re-energize. Find things to be thankful for. I just had this talk recently with a good friend, and he challenged me to make a list. And he said, try to get to 10 things each day if you can, and you'll find that it's kind of hard. You know, if you can get a couple, that's great. But try to find what you're thankful for. What are you grateful for that day? You know, maybe at the end of each day, that's kind of your way to sum up the day. How did things go? What am I happy about? What went well? Draw pictures, you know, share those with others, whether it's your family, whether you challenge some friends to kind of get in on this, your child and their classmates, you know, send it to the teacher, start a chain back and forth, you know, however you may do that. That always gets you, again, searching for that there's always something positive that happened in that day. There's always something that got us excited, that got us to smile, that was successful, that we worked through, we accomplished. And then pay it forward, you know, spread the wealth. You know, we're all trying different ways to keep ourselves happy, keep ourselves positive, share that with someone else. Maybe you, put that artwork in your window. I know me personally, I put some really big colorful Easter eggs in my sliding glass door so that people in my neighborhood can see that as they go and walk by. And it makes you happy too, doing that. Maybe you draw with some chalk on your driveway, or you go scribble in the neighbor's driveway and leave them a positive note. Putting decorations out, sending email or mail, you know, all your whole family can participate in all of these things. They're small, but it's a way to brighten the day, break up the activities, and make things exciting. I wanted to throw this in here too. I was trying to find some great suggestions on things for breaks. And I thought this was pretty cool. There's 50 ways to take a break. Some are very simple, some may take longer. Disclaimer, some are things that I know we can't technically do right now due to some of the social distancing constraints and things like that. But there's plenty of options there. And maybe, again, share, if you come up with some great idea, share that with a friend, and you'll never know how that might make their day or help them out. Speaking of, you know, working together, reach out. Reach out, ask questions, and ask any questions. I always say there's never a silly question, can't hurt to ask. So, you know, find out who your resources are. Who is your team? Use those people. You know, is it family members? Is it neighbors? Is it friends, coworkers? Is it, the Autism Society of Greater Akron? They're providing these great resources. Follow up and ask those questions. Might it be somebody that you get some other sort of outside service with, like a related service provider, or your ABA therapy, or your BCBA, if you have one of those you link with? Call somebody, text them, email, video chat. Some things you might want to ask about if you haven't been already, in-depth questions on those materials for those lessons. What can I use? What would be a way to modify if I don't have this item? I can't find it at the store. I can't get to the store. Ask those questions in those groups. Maybe somebody can help you out. Somebody can drop something off at your porch if you need it. Ask about tips for schoolwork, such things like common phrases that are used. I've been sharing with some parents, hey, when we give this instruction or we give this behavior redirection, this is the exact phrase we say here. Use this at home with your child to increase that consistency and that understanding. Maybe you ask about calming strategies that work, or behavior regulation. Again, consistent things from school if you can communicate with them. Or maybe you're asking friends, hey, what's working for you? Asking your parent support groups or whatever. Anything. Ask about anything, literally. Again, it can't hurt to ask. You never know what you might find out, and you never know how somebody might help you or how you may be able to offer that help to someone else. And then finally, breathe. Literally just sit here, take a deep breath, let out that sigh. Sometimes, again, that's what I do when I'm just sitting here working and going through my to-do list, or I, let out a nice big stretch or something. You'll just find that that really helps get through your day too. It's, again, so simple, but it's so helpful at the same time. And again, don't forget, Lisa started to mention these things, but you do have great resources right at your fingertips. The Autism Society of Greater Akron has the Facebook page. They also are offering daily resilience tips, the Take a Break program, things like the Easter Bunny virtual visits. And then again, we have another upcoming bite-sized discussion with Dr. Reed that should be a great presentation. So keep on the lookout for those different things coming out as well.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Jessica. That was a lot of great information. Great information.
Yes.
I do have a couple of questions here. So
Sure.
I believe we have an educator on the line with us. So
Okay.
having trouble, obviously with all of us being at home all the time together, it's a little tough being in same spaces and trying to coordinate everything. So how sometimes can we address behaviors at home when they say, I think you talked a little bit about it, when they say that they just want to go play and parents let them go play. So do we think that would be better to maybe suggest doing more one-on-one with educators so that the parent, if the parent, that's one of those anything questions, maybe ask their intervention specialist, hey, I'm having trouble focusing my kiddo, so can we do more one-on-one so that you can focus them or help me focus? Is that an appropriate?
Yeah, I would definitely say that one-on-one, if that's something that's feasible for you, if that's something that, the district and your team is okay with, how are you going to set that up? That one-on-one, is it going to be that one-on-one instruction time, or is it at very least too, can you converse with that parent? Maybe you just have kind of that one-on-one video time and give them some of that modeling and things like that. I've kind of been doing that with some parents as well. Finding out, okay, here's what I typically do at the school. How can you modify that at home? Certainly, I think you could do that as far as, again, providing the instruction, providing some modeling. It might be interesting too, to see if the child's going to pop on the video conference and say, hey, and then you say, hey, remember, what are your expectations? And see how they react to seeing you in their home and see what happens there as well. And I mean, keep, again, reassuring these parents, yes, the child wants to go play. So maybe as they're playing, maybe that child's asking those kids those questions from that lesson. Or you want to go swing? Okay, cool. I'm going to push you, but I'm going to hold it here. answer this question, then I'll push you again, you know, and find ways to kind of incorporate that into the play. So it's kind of like, okay, you chose this, but I'm still going to control a part of it also.
Good tips. I have a question. Yes, this presentation is being recorded if I did everything correctly, so we'll find that out. And yes, you can share it with anyone. We'll post it
Mhm.
Facebook, we'll post it on the website, those types of things. So absolutely share with anyone you feel needs this information.
Yes.
There's another question here. My son doesn't like to make choices. It turns into a battle of wills, and he wants both options, so he grabs both. So like if she were to give him a
Hmm.
red or blue jelly bean, he takes them both. And so any ideas on how to address that?
Yes. Um, well, a couple things actually. So I think, you know, definitely the limiting to two choices is a good idea. You don't want to present too many at once, and you kind of have to, you know, gauge your child on that. I would say, you know, if they start to try to grab the one or that I want both, we'll say, listen, again, I said one, you know, stick to it, stay consistent. Sometimes what works for me in kind of the school setting and with my staff I've worked with as well is, you know, if the child won't pick or they want to pick everything, you can even say like, you can choose or I'm going to choose. And I know, you know, that might sound a little tough, but sometimes that helps to kind of, you know, oh, okay, like I do want to choose, you know, or hey, another option would be, you know, I want both Jellos. Well, hey, let's do red Jello now, and then we'll have the blue Jello for the next thing, and kind of give some options for the timing of it all. Or maybe you say, okay, you want both. I'll give you 2 scoops of this one and 2 scoops of this one. You know, maybe you can find, again, ways to kind of modify and meet them in the middle. I'm always doing that too. So hopefully that helps.
Good. Well, that's all the questions that we have at
Okay.
the moment. So I want to say thank you, Jessica. Wonderful ideas.
Hmm.
Looking forward to hearing back from parents and finding out if this was helpful for them. And then if we can get any type of feedback, maybe we do expand on one of the topics that you talked about.
Absolutely.
And or if we go down this path and we find that after spending more time at home that we have different types of challenges which seem to
Sure.
happen every week, then maybe we can get back together and put something else in.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, yeah. And like Lisa said, you know, as far as feedback, I think, Lisa, you mentioned there's going to be some sort of feedback form or something going out. So too, with that feedback, yeah, let us know if there's something you want us to dive into more specifically and spend some more time on, or if you have a completely new idea you'd like to see. And even too, you know, as you kind of soak this in and maybe you review the presentation because it's going to be posted later, if some more questions come up where you're like, wait, what about this? Or how can I modify this? Like pop those questions in somewhere and we'll certainly get to answering them however we can. We definitely want to keep helping. Because again, I know it's tough. I've been hearing it, you know, from a lot of people. So however we can help, we're going to try to do that.
we are definitely here, and we can take questions too at our website address of info@autismakron.org.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
all right. Well, thank you again, Jessica. And I
Yes.
hope the rest of you have a great evening. And we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday to talk with Dr. Reed. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.